Welcome to Tales on the Towpath, the podcast where every mile tells a story.
We're two runners who spend a lot of time out here on the C&O Canal Towpath, talking about training, racing, and everything that happens between the miles.
From early morning runs to the stories that keep us moving.
This is where endurance meets inspiration, one step, one tail at a time.
So lace up and join us on the path, because every trail has a story, and this one's ours.
Welcome back. I'm Adam Lowe.
And I'm Chris Earl. And because it's the end of the month, we've got our returning special guest, Katie Lowe, with us. Hey, Katie.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me back, as always.
Of course. So first order of business today is we want to wish Chris a very happy birthday. Yesterday was his birthday. So along with all the other challenges and races going on in the month of January, Chris had a little bit of a fun weekend that was ruined a little bit by the snow. But Chris, do you want to tell us a little bit about your running weekend you had this weekend? And then we'll go back and we'll talk about some of the other challenges that we're doing.
Yeah, sure. So those of you who know me know that the last couple of years for my birthday, I've tried to do something age related and mile related to celebrate. So 3 years ago, before I had really gotten into ultra running, I thought it was a big deal that when I turned 50, I would go out and run for 50 minutes. And I was pretty happy with that because at the time I'd probably only been doing 3 or 4 miles a day. So was happy with that. But the following year, when I turned 51, I had gotten involved with running with the Tulo run crew and decided I needed to do something a little bit more. And so for 51 years, I did some quick math and realized that that was a factor of 3. How about that for math, Katie?
Very good.
And so what I ended up doing was I ran 3 miles every 3 hours 17 times to get to 51 miles. And so I did that over, a little over 2 days. And that was fun for me. That was my first time experimenting with something like that, going on the little amount of sleep and trying to work on fueling to get through 2 solid days of running multiple times a day. And I had so much fun with that when I turned 52 last year, I decided to take the Goggins challenge, but do an extra lap. So I did the 4x4 by 52. And again, did that over, a little over 2 days and had a lot of fun with it. And going into this year, turning 53, well, for those of you math inclined, that's a prime number. So there's no good way to divide that one up into segments. And so I'd been struggling with what I was going to do. And then this weather storm came in with the bitter cold temperatures, and we were forecast to get like 2 feet of snow. And so I was struggling. I couldn't figure out what I was going to do. And sure enough, the snow and the sleet and the ice did come. And yesterday, I was feeling kind of mopey that I hadn't done anything big to celebrate it. So after dinner, I convinced Sarah that we should go out and we should do a beer mile in the neighborhood. And so we mapped out real quick a quarter mile out and back course, and we got our beers out and dropped them in the snow on the cars and set the cameras up, and off we went. And so it was a lot of fun, a lot of slipping and sliding, but I managed to do all 4 beers. Sarah, we gave her a little bit of a handicap so that she wouldn't feel so overwhelmed by it. We only had her drink 1 beer that she did a quarter of it each lap. But we had a real good race, and came right down to the finish at the end where I had to outkick her up the driveway to ensure that I won. She may have let me win because it was my birthday, but I don't know. We'll have to ask her.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So that's a pretty good handicap for a beer mile, 4 beers to 1. And it came down to the last kick, huh?
Yeah, I was ahead of her after the first 2, but she did a bigger chug, I think, on the first 2 laps. So she didn't have to drink as much the last 2. And she was out of the gate pretty quick on those. So, and of course, by then I was feeling a little full. So my chugs were a little bit slower.
Oh, yeah. Chug 3 is the worst.
Yeah, after dinner, that's the hard way to do it.
Definitely was. And the beer was super foamy. They were not your typical beer mile beers. They were ambers, so a little heavier.
Oh, yeah. What ABV are those?
They were 5%, so I was good with that, but I didn't factor in the extra malt.
Oh, sure.
Well, that's a great birthday, and happy birthday again, Chris. And I can't wait to see what you do when you turn 54. That should be pretty
Yeah,
fun
man.
as well. Want to start planning that soon. I don't know if 54 is a factor of three or not, but I'm sure we could figure something out.
I'm sure Katie will tell us.
Uh,
I zoned out for a second because I was thinking about the beer mile and how if you're running a beer mile on snow and ice in your neighborhood, how that might translate to one that's like in May and nice weather and
It was a little fun to because I didn't factor in that a lot of my neighbors would be out snow blowing and shoveling while we were running by. And the first time we ran by, people were like, "Oh, you guys are hardcore." And then I think the second and third and fourth time they were just like, "That's a little weird."
that's awesome, Chris.
one time we did something similar in our neighborhood. We set it up in our garage and did an out and back .25. But by the last one, I threw up in my neighbor's yard. So luckily, they weren't shoveling snow at the time. But these days, somebody would definitely post me on our HOA Facebook group from their ring cam, I'm sure.
That was my one worry, that as I was going to have a reversal of fortune out in the street and have to go out with a shovel and clean that up.
Well, Chris, let's move a little bit to your races that you did January 17th and 18th, I believe. Luckily, they were not in West Virginia or the Maryland area. You went to Florida, as our listeners may know from a couple episodes ago, and you did the Big Pecker Challenge. So I know a little bit about that. I know you did a 5K and a 10K Saturday, or was it Saturday morning?
Saturday morning.
And then, yeah, and then Sunday you woke up and did the half marathon. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Big Pecker Challenge and then how you did in the overall results against all the other runners?
Yeah, sure. So it was a lot of fun, and I think the biggest surprise I had was how many people were involved. I was expecting, a few hundred people, but in the half marathon alone, there were 1,800 runners. So I think they said while we were down there that they had something like 6,000 race registrants for the four races, because there was the 5K, 10K, and half marathon that I did. And then the people who did the Little Pecker Challenge, they did the 5K, 10K, and then they did an 8K on Sunday. So a lot of folks down there all having a good time. There was everything from wheelchair racers to some elite athletes to people running in rooster costumes. So a little bit of everything for everyone's skill level. The 5K was 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. And we got down there, and if anyone ever goes down for this race or tries it, my number one piece of advice would be get down there earlier than you think, because the bathroom lines will be long and there's a really small corral for getting everybody in, and so you want to be there early and get yourself into the right spot. I ended up a few rows farther back than where I probably should have been. I was expecting a few more faster runners at the beginning of the race, and so I got boxed in a little bit early on in the 5K. But overall, I had a great race. It was a out and back course. You start up at Higgs Beach and went out Atlantic Boulevard and ended up on the Jimmy Buffett Memorial Highway, out a mile and a half, turn around and come back. And I finished 14th overall, just missed my goal time of 20 minutes and finished in 20:02, and second in my age group, which I was pretty happy with. And there were 1,600 people in that 5K. So that was a big 5K. I mean, that's double the size of Crumpy's for our local listeners. I also was pretty happy with it. I think it's the first 5K I've done in recent memory where I ran negative splits. I was 6:36 pace on the way out and 6:26 on the way back. So really happy that I had saved some energy and was able to have a pretty good kick at the end. Once I finished that though, it was just real quick, get some hydration in, and I think I threw down a gel. We talked a little bit about, what's your strategy between races. There really wasn't much of one once I got down there, because it was get through the chute, get your medal, go find my gels and my hydration, and then turn around and get right back in the corral. That was a little bit chaotic because they started and finished at the same place for both races. So you still had 5K finishers coming in while the 10K was trying to line up. They did a pretty good job of managing it, and we got off instead of at 8 o'clock at 8:05, I think. So overall, pretty well done, considering there's still a lot of people finishing that 5K at 8.
Do you think any of those people finishing at that time would also be doing the 10K? Would they just turn straight around and go back out, or how would that work?
There definitely were. There were some that had to, like, they came through and then they basically tossed their medal off to the side and got to the back of the corral. So I felt bad for those people, but I mean, I guess they knew what they were signing up for going into it. So
Right.
the 10K had almost 1,200 people that ran the race, and I ended up finishing 12th overall in that, second again in my age group, and again ran negative splits. Course was very similar to the 5K, except it just went out an extra mile and a half farther. So 3 out, 3 back, and it was starting to get warm by the time it finished. The sun came out, but it wasn't oppressive or anything. So, and it was a really nice course, just running right along the coastline of the island there. Coming back, I could see into the water and I saw a little stingray swimming while I was running. So that was neat. But yeah, no, it was just a real good Saturday. Most people probably, if they were taking the challenge real serious, would have gone home, gone back to the hotel and put their feet up for the day. But no, I ended up walking around another 5 to 7 miles, hydrating the rest of the afternoon. And then on Sunday, we got up for a 7 o'clock start for the half marathon. Course was a little bit different for that. It started over on the other side of town. So up near the boat piers and things like that on the other end of Duval Street, up near Mallory Square. And for that, you got to run through a little bit of Old Town and then down Duval Street, which anybody who's been to Key West knows Duval Street, because it's where everybody goes for food or drink or anything fun while you're down there. So it was really cool to start the race and run down through all the bars and restaurants before making a turn and going out and following basically the 10K course and turning around and coming back. Overall, that was a really good race too. I think I told you, Adam, on one of our canal runs that, at one point in the middle of the race, I kind of lost focus a little bit and wasn't watching my pace as much as I should have been. And so I got a little frustrated with myself there. But then once I realized that, I picked it up and lo and behold, ended up with a negative split for the third race of the weekend, which I know I've talked to Katie about this before. I don't run negative splits. I go out too hard and then I struggle at the end.
Yeah, we can commiserate on that one usually.
I ended up finishing 28th in the half marathon. And, at first I was a little bit frustrated with that because I'd had, been in the top 15 on Saturday for everything. But when I got back and looked at the results, most of the people that were ahead of me did not run the 5K and 10K. They only ran the half marathon. So they were on fresh legs. And so I guess I can't be too disappointed with that.
So Chris, what you very quickly mentioned the weather on Saturday. How was the weather for, like, what temperatures are we talking? Because when I think Florida, I think hot, but then again, we are still in January. So what kind of temperatures are down there?
Yeah, so it was extremely cool when we first arrived in Key West. Like, most of the residents were in their puffy jackets and beanies. But for the race on Saturday, we had 70, 72 and a little bit of a breeze. So it was pretty ideal for the 5K and 10K. On Sunday morning, it was 74, 75, but it was like 85% humidity. So that was a little bit of a shock to the system after, coming from here, but I didn't have any issues with dehydration or cramping or anything like that. There were a few folks who went out really hard at the start of the half marathon, and I ended up, seeing them struggle along the side on the way back. But overall, the weather wasn't bad. The day after the race, though, the temperatures dropped down into the low 60s. I think it even went down to like 58 overnight, and the wind was blowing like 20, 25 miles an hour. So it was cold for Key West, but still nothing like you all were experiencing up here.
Oh yeah.
Now, did you recognize people like during the race, like as like, you run the 10K and you go, oh yeah, I saw that guy or that girl in the 5K, and then the next morning, did you see other people that you like remembered from the other races or anything like that?
Absolutely. There was a 14 or 15-year-old boy who I think he won the 5K. Saw him in each of the other races. His dad was there. His dad, I think, ended up finishing third overall in the challenge. So he was there. The gentleman who finished just ahead of me in the age group, he and I were going back and forth in all the races. He edged me out in the 5K. I beat him in the 10K, and then he beat me by a good amount in the half. So yeah, it was almost like being a local by the time I got through the third race.
That's pretty cool to be able to see like the same people over and over again and kind of recognize. So how many people do you think ran all three races? Do you have an estimated?
There were 635 people who finished all three races for the Big Pecker.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And you were what, 12th overall? Is that what you said?
So for the
6th overall.
so they updated the official results, and I ended up 7th overall in the Big Pecker Challenge, but that also included the wheelchair division. So there was one gentleman who he actually won the overall challenge, but he was wheel assisted. Not that I would trade that, but it's not quite the
Right.
same thing.
Right.
No.
Right. Okay, well that's good. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a great challenge and it sounds like some crazy stuff that we've either done something similar or, like I know maybe not with a half marathon the next day, but we kind of do Crumpy's the night 7 p.m. on Friday night, and then Tom Osherman right in the morning. So it's a little bit different, but the back-to-back races are, they could be good for you for sure.
Well, Adam, we also do the Frederick Steeplechasers Nut Job. We've done, well, Adam and I have done that together once, and then we're doing it this year, right? Where it's a 5K at night, half marathon the next day. So not quite as
Yeah,
much, a little tighter turnaround though.
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Probably nice to get out of this area and go to Florida for a week. And then when you came back though, Chris, you brought that cold, windy weather back with you. It
Oh,
was not good when you came back.
man, it's been rough this week. The
Yeah.
the wind and the low temperatures, and then the precipitation yesterday. So, but I think Adam, you had a race scheduled for this weekend as well. How did that go?
The race that wasn't. So my race was in Ada, Ohio at the Ohio Northern University. And probably Tuesday, maybe Monday or Tuesday, I started talking to Katie about, whether or not I was going to make the trip, looking at the weather. The weather kept jumping from anywhere from 16 to 28 inches of snow on Sunday. And, we're just watching it, and that number never really came down. I mean, it depends on what weather app you're looking at, but it was always seemingly between 12 and 24 inches of snow. So probably Wednesday, I kind of really decided that I wasn't going to go. And so I talked to my buddy Jeff and kind of asked him what he thought. And he was like, man, I think we're going to have a great race. And just kept going. And I was like, no, Jeff, look at the weather. Like the weather's going to be bad. So getting there might have been okay. We would have drove up Saturday morning and I think we could have made it. It's probably a 7-hour trip. So we could have left early enough to make it on time and be safe. They were supposed to get between 8 and 10 inches of snow. So I mean we could have got there. The hotel's 2 minutes away from where the indoor marathon is held. So it wouldn't have been a bad walkover or run over, even if it was snowing. But the problem would have been getting back home. We're looking at being snowed in at least Sunday night, maybe Monday night, and not being able to get back down here until Wednesday, maybe safely, if we were going to get 24 to 25 inches of snow. So Wednesday night, I kind of made the decision that I wasn't going to go. And then Thursday, we got an email in the morning from the race director, and his email basically said, hey, if you can come safely, come to the race. We're going to hold it unless the university makes me cancel it. And then, we'll have to cancel the race because it'll be out of my control. So then my fear was if we went to the race, they would cancel it Saturday night, Sunday morning when it was already snowing, and then we'd still be stuck there with no race to run at all anyway. So Thursday, I was able to cancel the reservation for the hotel. So we didn't lose any money there, which was nice. But I made the decision Thursday night that I was not going to go to the race. And then Saturday morning, we got an email from the race director saying that the race was canceled. And that was about 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. So we would have been probably halfway there, on our way if Jeff and I had decided to go. So it was a good decision. I mean, either way, it was the right decision because I wouldn't want to have been snowed in Ohio or, coming back down and having to stop and stay at a hotel for a couple days. So this was definitely the right decision to not go. And then it was canceled. Race director did a great thing. He offered us a refund or a deferral into next year. And I basically told him just to keep my registration as like a donation to the track club because I know it's a track fundraiser. So, and I know they already bought shirts and awards. So, from the race director side, I just wanted him to have that. And then, if available, I'll probably go back and run next year, but we'll see. So, yeah, so long winded answer to say I didn't go. There was no race. It was canceled. So I made the decision not to go, and then it was canceled anyway.
So Adam, I know you're in the midst of your build up training for Boston, and I imagine that you probably had that race pegged as a training workout. How does this change your training plan for Boston, or did you do anything to make up for it?
Or do you truly have a training plan?
Yeah, that's probably the better question. So, well, we're gonna talk about our January challenge that we're doing here in just a couple minutes, but I'm trying to stay at the top of this leaderboard for that challenge. So I didn't taper at all for this indoor marathon. In fact, Thursday I did 22.6 miles. So that wasn't like it's not like I was tapering or anything, but it would have been nice to go and try to run a faster marathon, you know. For me, this Boston, it's supposed to be my 50th official marathon. That's what it would have been. So now in February, we're doing Wilmington, North Carolina, and that'll be now 48. So now I need to find another one before Boston so that Boston can still be my 50th marathon. Because Marine Corps was supposed to be my 50th marathon. I'm just failing at everything. I can't get this 50th one down. But Chris, so back to your training question. So it's kind of like Katie said, do I have a training plan for Boston? I This is probably not the right answer, but it's my answer, and I really don't have a training plan because I have Capital Backyard before Boston. So, like, that's kind of what I'm putting in all these miles for right now is Capital Backyard, and then I'll reassess after that my plan for Boston. I mean, I know it's 3.5 weeks after Capital, so we'll have to recover and then kind of see what the legs give me, you know?
Like do some speed work or something?
Uh, no, I did that. Oh, I did speed work in preparation for the beer mile and the HCC
And it
mile.
worked, and it worked.
Yep.
So, what's funny is when we were getting on the treadmill this morning, I was thinking, "I wonder if he's gonna do speed work anytime soon again." But I or, you know, a strength workout, but I don't wanna call you out too much.
So I've done okay, it's been like a week since I did strength work, but it's hard to do speed work when last week I ran 130 miles. So it's hard to incorporate without getting hurt. Like but and for capital, I don't really need speed work, right? I mean, I guess there's probably some arguments to that, right? Like but it is what it is,
No, I completely agree with that.
right? But speed work probably wouldn't hurt me for Wilmington.
Right. Or between Capital Backyard and Boston. That's kinda what I was getting at.
So no, it's always fun. Like you're a little bit more motivated. At least I am when I go to a race, right? I can go run 26.2 miles as fast as I can, and that can count as my speed work for Boston, right? That sounds way more fun than going out and doing like mile repeats on the track. I can I get a medal for doing the marathon. I don't get anything for doing repeats.
But maybe you'll do the marathon faster. I
That's
think our
true.
listeners need to know I give Adam a lot of crap about speed work and his lack of doing speed work. So this is just me poking him in the ribs a little bit.
Now I pay for speed work. That's how I get it. All right. So, Chris, let's talk a little bit about our January challenge that we're in on Strava. I know we've mentioned it a couple times, right? Probably briefly. I think we have like reposted on Tails on the Towpath, the Instagram page, maybe with our ranking in this distance challenge for the month of January, right? So basically, Chris and I are on a team and we are running against, I think there's like 80 people in this challenge, but everybody can have a partner. And we are currently in fourth place now. We kind of been going back and forth with the team that's in third. And right when we came on this podcast, I was second overall, and now I've been bumped down to third overall. And Chris is in 10th overall, and that equals out to us being in fourth. So as far as this morning, so I've done 404.2 miles so far this month, and Chris has done 299.3. And there are like three or four people right around Chris that he's battling with, and then I'm battling with like five other people trying to stay in the top five. I go to bed, I could be in first. I wake up, I could be in seventh. So it's a pretty tough challenge, right? There's some pretty tough runners in here.
Man, I had no idea what we were getting into when we signed up for this. We initially were in the challenge where we were one of two teams and we're like, this is going to be no big deal, blah, blah, blah. And then we found this challenge. And at the time, I was like, surely Adam, with his 330 miles a month, that'll put us right near the leaderboard. And here we are with 5 more days left in the month, and you're already at 400 and struggling to stay in the top 5. Like, it's comforting, I guess, and a little disturbing to realize that there are people out there that run even more miles than we do each month.
So do you guys think you're at a disadvantage being in the Eastern time zone, I guess, because aren't a lot of these people, that's why you go to bed and then so many have passed you. Is that what you mean? Because they have more hours after
Yeah,
your day is over, sort of?
yeah, I don't know how that works. Like, I guess Taylor, right? She made it. She lives in, I think, San Diego. So I don't know, like, if how the time thing works, but I think yesterday she did like 20 miles on the treadmill at like 11:50 p.m. So I don't think she cares what time of day it is. So
I think the disadvantage we have is that I'm at least 20 years older than everybody else besides Adam in the challenge. So,
yeah, we are battling two college are just out of college. But I think Sam, right? Sam's like a 2:16 marathoner. Look, they're gonna listen to this and they're gonna know that we Strava stalked them, right? But we told them yesterday in the comments, and I think some of them started listening to the podcast.
I think they're probably checking you out on Strava as well. So
Yeah. So I don't know. It's been fun for sure, and it's been challenging. Like, I know I definitely wouldn't have run 400 miles so far this month if it weren't for this challenge. And I mean, there are some prizes at the end of the month for the top team and the top three teams, and I think the top five individuals. But like, ultimately, it's definitely helping me train for like Capital and some of the other races that I'll be doing later this year.
So Adam, I've been waiting for one of them to make a comment that you're not really from West Virginia, because I'm sure when they're Strava stalking you and looking at your elevation gain for the year, they're like, no way he's in the Mountain State.
I think I'm at like 1,200 feet of gain for the year, and that's over 400 miles. And I think like maybe a quarter of that is probably like the GPS blip when I'm running on the towpath, and it gives me like 60 feet of gain instead of 9 feet, right?
Yep.
So yeah, but yeah, you're right. It is, January is not about elevation, that's for sure. Chris, anything else you want to add about the challenge?
No, I think I'm really looking forward to the next 5 days. And, I went out today thinking I was going to run 3 or 4 miles because it was cold and icy and snowy. And the next thing you know, I'm coming home and I'm already got 10 in. So there's probably another run in my future today. We'll see, just to try to maintain that third or fourth spot.
Yeah, you got to break 300 today.
Yeah, I will definitely go and get that 0.7.
All right. Our last topic that we have for today is, with the weather that we just got in West Virginia here, and the little surrounding area, we kind of thought it'd be fun to talk about either snow running or treadmill running, what your preference is, maybe an advantage of one over the other, or, necessary evil or good, what we got there. So, Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about maybe your preference first, and then since I already know what it is, maybe you can tell us some tricks and tools that you use when you are running either on the snow or the treadmill to help maybe with like some of those little maybe boredom or whatever you got there.
So I think I've mentioned this before because you've asked me maybe in the happy hour or whatever what I prefer, but I definitely am a treadmill runner in the winter. After JFK hits, I usually stay outside through JFK, and then I always tell myself I'm going to stay outside. I'm going to be tough this year and I'm going to go out in the cold weather and do my runs. And that just never sticks. I am always finding myself back on the treadmill for most of the months, December, January, probably through February. So that answers the question. I am a treadmill runner and I definitely do not go out in the snow or ice. I just am too nervous. I've had previous knee injuries. Once in high school, a pretty bad one, and then even as short as maybe like 7 years ago, I had something wrong with my kneecap. I have patellar tracking disorder, so I get really nervous and I baby my knees a little bit. And when I think about going out and running on the slippery surface, I just worry that I'm going to tweak something or be injured. So I opt for the indoor safe option. So I do put a decent amount of miles in on the treadmill. I think my longest run ever, though, is whether you think this is long or far on the treadmill, I guess it depends on what you've done or how much you like it. But 15 miles I did last year. I think that was my max. I may have gone to 17 one day, but I'd have to go back and look that up. I do think a lot of people don't like the treadmill because it's boring. I agree. I think it is there's just not as much to see. There's nothing to look at except the same wall or the same TV or that whatever it is. So I do put on TV shows. A few years back, I actually was trying to think of something I could watch that I could just put on and it would was kind of mindless and I don't have to pay strict attention to. So if I am running and I miss a detail here or there, it's not gonna affect anything. Like I did try to watch things like Criminal Mind or Law and Order, those things, but if you miss part of it because you zone out or you are doing speed work or something, and you're not looking at the TV, then sometimes you get lost in the show and then it doesn't mean anything. I don't like that. I don't wanna have to rewind and figure it out, so I actually started watching Survivor from season 1. Now, we do watch the current seasons, so most of these seasons I've seen before, but it's been years, right? So about 3 years ago, I started with season 1 of Survivor, and I have watched all the way through every episode. Today, I think I am on episode I don't know, one of the early episodes in season
Season
42?
three.
For see 43, okay. We finished season 42. Adam's been running with me on the treadmill a little bit, so that's why I've been saying "we," but we're in season 43, and I think they're gonna have season 50 coming up starting in February, so that's how far I've made it. I don't know if I'll watch all the way to 50 again because I've just seen the most recent episodes, but it's like the perfect thing because there's lots of episodes. You can just watch them in succession. You don't have to see every single second of every single competition, but there are those competitions. There's the social factor, and it just is the perfect show to watch on the treadmill. So that's what I do to combat my boredom. Sometimes if I get sick of that, I just listen to music, but I do that when I go outside too, so that's not quite as often.
Is there a difference, like, in your mental prep if you're gonna go do 1 mile or if you have a long run of 8? Like, do you prepare differently, or is it just like, "Alright, I'm on the treadmill again, here we go."
I think there's definitely well, if I mentally prepare for a long run on the treadmill, it goes way better. Like the patience factor. Sometimes when I get on the treadmill, I love the treadmill, but there's still many days where I get on the treadmill and I look at my watch and I only have to do 1 mile and it's literally point 0.3. And I'm thinking, when is this going to be over? It takes forever. I I actually don't think I run as well on the treadmill. So, meaning I don't run as fast. My slow pace, my slow, easy miles outside, they're always faster than what I do on the treadmill. So, I just think that sometimes that can play with your mind a little bit, but I've done this so many winters, and then when I get back outside, it translates to back to what I was doing, like, speed-wise before I went on the treadmill, that I know now not to worry about it too much. But if I am gonna do a long run on the treadmill, it takes a lot of mental prep that I guess I just have to self-talk that I need to be patient. It's a lot of patience, right? Because 'Cause I'm just down there clicking off the mileage. Not totally unlike going outside for a long run, but still, it's gonna be a long, long trek. It's standing in the not standing, but running in the same spot for, could be hours.
What about like water or gels or anything like that? Do you take any of that when you're on the treadmill?
I do that just exactly like I would if I was outside, depending on how many miles I'm putting in or how much time I'm putting in. My general rule is anything less than an hour, I don't need gels for. I'll step off the treadmill anytime I feel thirsty or like I need hydration, regardless of the distance. But if I'm running over an hour, I typically then do plan a gel for every 30 to 45 minutes. It makes it kinda easy though, because it's sitting right there beside you, it's not you don't have far to go, you have a garbage can right there, I've done beer mile practice on here by having the cans of LaCroix sitting right beside it, so those are all it's kinda easy on the treadmill.
So I actually was chatting with our friend Heidi yesterday, and she did a 10-mile run on her treadmill, and she sent me a selfie, and she wore her vest on the treadmill, which that was something I had not considered before, but she was just practicing using her hydration system, and I gave her a little bit of grief, like, your treadmill doesn't have a cup holder. But she thought it was easier, and that's what she wanted to do, and I was actually kind of impressed with it. Like, I never would have thought of throwing my vest on to get on the treadmill.
Yeah, I think I saw a story, I think she posted a story on Instagram and I saw that, but I did, like, think about it for maybe half a second, like, "Oh, I wonder if she actually went outside. I thought she was on the treadmill." But especially if you wanna test out your vest or if it's new or something, I think that's a great idea because there you are, you're nowhere you get a mile from home and it's rubbing you the wrong way or just not working out for you, then you don't have any amount of time you just throw it off if you're on the treadmill. I will also say that I've had a few different treadmills. I think this is my probably third treadmill that I've owned myself, and Adam has a different treadmill. I don't love putting stuff in the cup holders because it rattles around just a little bit, and I don't like that extra noise. I, it's not silent in the room by any means, especially if Adam's there, he has the fan running, we have the TV on, but just that little rattling will bother me, and when you're on the treadmill, especially if you're doing a long run, you don't want something that's irritating you, even if it's just the smallest noise. So, my treadmill, when I did 8 miles last weekend on it, like, every time my left foot hit, I'd hear this little, like, something must have been I don't know if you would call it a squeak, but something was just there making a noise every time my left foot hit, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna drive me crazy."
So, have you guys ever considered, like, recording when the 2 of you are running on the treadmill together and maybe like a podcast, Tales from the Treadmill?
Ooh, that was a great idea. I have considered putting our camera down there, the oh my gosh, the hover, and having it spin, do that orbit mode and spin around, but we'll see. Haven't done it yet.
That would be awesome.
The other way to break up a treadmill run is actually to throw in speed work. I know that keeps coming out of my mouth this podcast, but when I'm very frustrated with speed work on the treadmill just because I like to keep accurate data of what splits I'm hitting and it the watch just when you have your watch calibrated with the treadmill, my easy runs are very very accurate between the 2, they're very close. Even my, like, moderately paced runs are very close, but when I start doing speed work, sometimes it throws it off, and I just like to track the data. I like to see, I'm doing this short speed work, am I getting any faster? How did I perform today? And it makes it really hard to compare. But the other day, I think I had 3 or 4 I think I had to do 4 miles, on my training plan, and I just wasn't in the mind space to the patience, I didn't have it that day. So I did break it down into a few like 400 pickups where I just ran a little faster for a 400 and then I did the next 400 easy. And just doing that really helped tick the distance off on the treadmill. So if that's something that people out there who are listening need to run on the treadmill and they are struggling with that, maybe just playing little games with that. Even if you're not supposed to run hard, just up the speed for a little bit, drop it back down, back and forth. Even run walking a lot of times can make the time like your brain interpret the time as going faster, even though you're spending the same amount of time on it.
All right, how about you, Chris? Snow running or treadmill running?
If I can get outside, I'm going outside. We have a treadmill. I use it if I have to. I used to use it a lot more often, but the last couple years, I've done everything I can to get outside and just get those miles in. Some of it is because of the Two Rivers Tread Winter Warrior Challenge that we're also doing, where the miles are supposed to be outside. So I try to stay accurate with that. But mostly I just really try to avoid the treadmill if I can. I did break down this weekend and did a few runs on the treadmill. It wasn't terrible. I did some of the same tricks Katie was just describing. Every mile I would change the speed just to give your mind that little bit of reset and something to look forward to that's, maybe in an 8 or 9 minute block, not a 25-minute block. I had my phone on with the headphones and watching YouTube videos, just something to distract me from the monotony of running right there in place. So I'm grateful to have it, especially, this week coming up where it's going to be 0 or negative temperatures in the morning. It'll be a great option to still get some miles in and try to compete in this other challenge. But yeah, if I can get outside, I'm going outside.
Do you have a temperature or a condition where you're like, "Okay, this is it. I'm going to the treadmill," or is there pretty much a day by day basis?
It's a day by day basis. So on Saturday, when it was really first starting to get cold there before the snow came, instead of using the treadmill, I was going outside for 2 or 3 mile runs, coming back in, getting warmed up, and then go back out for 2 miles just to avoid doing 6 miles on the treadmill. But I did, I think, yesterday end up doing 7 miles total over 2 runs on the treadmill. So I broke down.
Yeah, for me, it's one of those things like I went out. Well, yesterday I was on the treadmill the whole day, and then this morning I was on the treadmill, and then I just went outside about an hour before we are recording now, and there's still a little bit of like slick spots on the road, but they were clear for the most part. But that's usually when I'm inside is when I get yelled at for missing date morning with Katie, so I make sure I run those miles on the treadmill with her. And then that was a joke, by the way, Katie. We all know it was a joke. Okay.
Don't don't record those sessions.
Yeah. Or like if like our neighborhood generally isn't hasn't been like plowed very well lately. This snowstorm, they did a fantastic job, I think. But the last couple, like the roads were bad for 4 days or so, and the road has just been a sheet of ice, and like it's just not worth the risk of injury and stuff like that. So I'll go on the treadmill. But for me, it is completely mental, and it's hard for me to run like any more than 8 miles in a row on the treadmill. So like the last couple of days, I've been breaking it down into 4.2 mile runs in preparation for capital. But I run 4.2 miles and I step off for 5, 6 minutes and then I'm back on the treadmill. But I don't know what it is. I just need that mental reset just to get off of there. And I sweat so much that like it's gross. Like I wear a pair of shorts and you would think, oh man, he's gonna save so much laundry because he's not bundled up going outside. But I have 6 like hand towels that I go through. I go through one hand towel every 2 miles, and then it's just soaking wet, and I just throw it on the floor next to the treadmill because of how much I sweat. So if I run 8 miles, I go through 4 hand towels, and then I need another one at the end because I'm just dripping with sweat. So it's like more laundry if I stay inside than if I were to go outside.
And there's sweat around the treadmill. If I'm the way our workout room is set up is it's a fairly small room, but there's a treadmill on each, like one on the right, one on the left side of the room. So if I'm in the middle doing my workout or anything, I definitely have to hug the side of my own treadmill, or else I'm in the splash zone, we could call it. And whenever he's finished and he, like, folds up his treadmill, there is just, like, a whole entire outline of where the treadmill was and where he has to wipe up sweat off the floor. I mean, Adam's a sweater, so
Yeah, so for me, yeah, it's almost easier just to go outside if I can. Then I don't have to clean up so much when I'm done running, you know? So yeah, but I definitely also prefer to be outside if possible, and if it's safe and I can get good footing and just go run and not have to worry about like slipping or falling or anything like that. So
well, in general, Adam runs hot. Like his body temperatures, he's just always warm, and I'm the opposite. I'm always cold. So when I think about going outside and in the cold when I'm already cold, it just feels miserable. And there's times where I've planned to go outside, and then when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, especially for a long run, I'm like, I just can't suffer through it today. I'd rather just go down to the treadmill and of course, running before work, there's always the dark aspect too, which is another reason why I choose the treadmill. But Adam, I imagine, kind of feels the same way, except opposite about the treadmill. Like he's already hot, he's already warm, he's walking downstairs to run in the hot little sweat box that we have as a workout room because we're both on the treadmill. He has a fan on him from behind, the fan on the treadmill, and he's still sweating to death. So I imagine that's not as enjoyable, almost the juxtaposition of me wanting to go outside. And just to clarify, Thursday date mornings started because Adam was running with me on Thursday mornings because I had to go out for longer tempo runs, and there was the safety aspect when it was dark outside in the morning. But it just kinda continued once I was on the treadmill. He's like, "I'll run with you on the treadmill." So we just call it date Thursday mornings and or a Thursday morning date. And then he gave it up one day to go run with Chris.
yeah, I
And
chose
that's
Chris one Thursday and I haven't heard the end of it since. Chris was running outside where he
that's
could have been
right.
attacked on the towpath. He could have been attacked. I had to
That's
be
right.
there
I
to
was
protect.
safe.
There are bears out there, I hear.
That's right. Oh man. All right. Well, guys, this was a lot of fun. I think our listeners hopefully will enjoy hearing Chris's recap of his Big Pecker challenge, and hopefully they are able to get some running done either in the snow or on the treadmill, you know, these last couple of days that we have here in the Maryland, West Virginia area. I am excited for February. February, we are going to try to do couples, running couples, and talk about, you know, kind of how they manage life together, running together, work, kids, whatever their situation is. So it should be a lot of fun. I know next week our first guest is our running friends Mike and Megan, so that should be a lot of fun. And then we have some other guests lined up that we need to secure dates and times with, but February should be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I'm really
I'm
looking forward to
definitely
that.
looking forward to that.
Excellent. Well, Chris and Katie are on the same page and they are both looking forward to that.
As usual.
All right, guys, it's been a lot of fun. We'll talk to you guys next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
That's all for today's episode of Tales on the Towpath. Thanks for joining us on another run down memory lane and along the C&O. If you've enjoyed the show, be sure to follow, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep your pace steady and your stories flowing.